Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV Whiskey 1, good vibrations. If you have one of those standing wave ratio meters, especially one of the older ones that shows percentages of reflected power, pardon me, a little bit of side effects from a new medication that my pharmaceutical empire has, in its great wisdom, seen to hook me on, or try to. Well, okay, shut up, Stanley. Regarding the SWR meter, you might see percentage reflected power numbers along with the standing wave ratio numbers. The most familiar that sticks in my mind is 3 to 1 means that 25% of the power is reflected back to you or your transmitter when you have that kind of a standing wave ratio, 3 to 1. Well, that's a misstatement and an oversimplification. It's true that if you have a 3 to 1 mismatch at your antenna feed point, say an antenna with 150 ohm pure resistive feed point impedance fed with 50 ohm cable will produce a 3 to 1 standing wave ratio, and 25% of the power will be reflected back from the feed point when it encounters that feed point and will come back towards the transmitter. Now the question is, what happens to that power? Does that mean that you're only getting 75% of the power output from your antenna that you would if it were a perfect match? And the answer is an emphatic no, that is not true, and it is misleading. The actual loss caused by a 3 to 1 standing wave ratio varies depending upon the amount of loss that the transmission line has to begin with. That is, if it's perfectly matched. The line loss per unit length is usually specified in the data with the transmission line itself in decibels per foot, or decibels per 100 feet, or decibels per meter, or decibels per kilometer, or something like that. What you need to do is consult one of the older, I know the older ARRL publications have this information, and what sticks in my mind is the old ARRL antenna books from the 1970s era. They may still have that information, I don't know, because I haven't checked. But the ARRL also runs a technical information service that can help you answer that question, because it is a complicated issue, far more complicated than merely saying that you're losing a quarter of your power if you have a 3 to 1 SWR. When that power, and I put that in quotes, when that radio frequency electromagnetic field comes back down your feed line towards your transmitter and finally reaches your transmitter, all of it, 100%, is reflected back again towards your antenna, so that it makes another round. And when it reaches the antenna, once again, 25% of it comes back to you if it's a 3 to 1 SWR. And that happens many, many times because radio waves travel so fast, even in a transmission line, an instantaneous period of time, but it's an infinite, theoretically infinite number of bounces back and forth in a kind of geometric decrement curve, that all of those reflected power readings produce some power coming back again towards the antenna. And you add that up, an infinite series, and the mathematics gets a little bit messy, far too messy for me to go into in a video like this. But the net result is that you don't lose anywhere near 25% of that power. of that electromagnetic energy that reaches your antenna if you have a 3-to-1 SWR. Nowhere near. It's a misleading figure, and I think it's served to create a lot of misconceptions. Again, get the ARRL publications, especially those on antennas, and study up, and eventually maybe you'll learn all the complication boils down to one simple thing. Figure out the loss, figure out if it's significant to you. If the total loss caused by the SWR is less than 1 decibel compared to what you would get with a perfect match, then for all intents and purposes your antenna is every bit as good as it would be if it were perfectly matched, because 1 decibel represents the smallest detectable change in power that a listener can see or notice if she or he is expecting it. Got that? If not, get the ARRL publications, contact their technical information service, and if it really bothers you too much, forget it all and get on the air and make contacts, preferably on CW, and maybe you'll run into me, and of course at the end of our contact, we will say, in our native fist, CW, 73 and so long, da-da-da-da-da-da.